All right, welcome, guys. We just arrived here at Dubai Podcast Studio, talking a little bit about our journey together at Eden Gates. What do we talk about in the podcast?
Yeah, I think we will start off first about our exciting developments, the beach resorts, the ultra-luxury facilities, the current projects we are acquiring, the top-tier partners we're working with, and also the journey we are currently on, all this fast accelerating momentum we have right now with all these deals coming up, all the value we are providing right now for the investor, because we're working with the top-tier guys here basically in the world. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, so stay tuned for more updates on our journey. Stoked to have you along. Let's go.
Let's go. To give a small introduction to today's podcast, well, I'm Vincent. I'm the founder of Eden Gate, and this is Don. Pretty much my best friend and my business partner. And yeah, since we're doing one of the most luxurious and profitable real estate projects and beachfront villas in Bali and the surrounding islands, it would be maybe interesting to hear how all this came to be. How did you come to these projects, and what we're doing right now, and where do you come from?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll talk a little bit about my background, and then we'll jump into why I'm a partner, or why I joined on for Eden Gates English brands and international, right? So my background has started in public accounting, CPA for a decade. Worked at Ernst & Young for a couple of years, absolutely hated it. I hated corporate America, and then went all in on building my own CFO services firm. So I actually specialized in real estate when I left Ernst & Young. So I started the firm. One of my first clients was a very big real estate developer. So what we would do is we would acquire single-family homes, we would fix, flip, and then refi them in blanket loans, right? So I was the CFO for that whole process. So very numbers-driven, very analytical background. And then when we started that process, I really fell in love with the real estate market. After that firm, I really got into crypto and like chasing gains, big gains in cryptocurrency. And real estate wasn't really exciting for me, especially in the United States market. So I was like really not looking. After I left that firm and did the public speaking company, I decided real estate really wasn't for me, because U.S. gains aren't that exciting, right? We're talking about like 5%, 6%, maybe on a good project, right? So I kind of put real estate to the shelf. And then when I started focusing back on real estate was when I played the cash flow game. Have you heard of the cash flow game before?
Yeah, of course. Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, after the last crypto bull run, I left a lot of profit on the table. So when I left a lot of profit on the table, I was like, how do I fix this problem going into this next cycle, right? I didn't buy assets. I didn't create cash flow. I left a lot of gains in my portfolio, a lot of screenshots, right?
The famous screenshots.
Yeah, a lot of screenshot gains. And everyone, if you fail once, that's great. But if you didn't learn and you fail twice, that's on you, right? So what I learned was buying assets that cash flow over your liabilities. That's was a big breakthrough for me, being an accountant and CPA and all of that. I knew these concepts, but like it's a very simple, practical use case, right? Buying assets that cash flow over your liabilities. So I put that seed into the world, right? I was like, okay, how do I find this? How do I create an experience of life? How do I create a business opportunity that will cash flow for me, right? And I was in the back of my mind, right? I didn't really pursue it that aggressively because the crypto bull run was exciting again, right? So at least this last cycle. And then I met Vincent last year, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm doing real estate developments in Bali. And he was like, I love Bali. We're actually going to Bali. It was a Capital Club event in September. We met I think we met in August last year, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a Capital Club event in Bali. We came to Bali, went to the event, and then, didn't really know where I was going. I just recently left the US. I sold all my stuff, sold my Range Rover back in June last year. Put most of my stuff in storage, at least valuables, and sold the rest of the stuff I didn't need. And I was like, I want to be out of the U.S. for a bit, right? I want to, tour the world, have a wife, and really now is the time to travel and experience, life while before we have kids and settle down, right? So we went to Bali. Initially planned to stay 2 weeks, extended a month. And then, I stayed at least 6 months so far, and now we're in Dubai. But yeah, so I met Vincent and saw the opportunity because he was going to Sumba and surrounding islands. He was selling for different investment properties in Bali, and he's obviously crushing it on the sales side. But my main thing is like, how do we get units? How do we get developments? How do we acquire land and build or co-develop with different property owners or developers, right? So that was my intention when I was thinking about how to acquire units. It's great to sell and buy units yourself, but how do you really uh, gain a ton of units, right? Or how do you really generate massive wealth in a short period of time? So, when Vincent brought this opportunity, I was like, okay, I'll scope it out. I was still a little skeptical because, real estate, I was a little jaded with US, not high returns. And I didn't really know the Indonesian market, right? I didn't know the Indonesian market. I didn't know, how it operates or how it works, these freehold, leasehold things. So I was like, okay, I really need to understand it. So first step was understanding how Vincent operates, how he operates his business. So he gave me full scope on that. So thank you for that. And then going to see the properties, right? I need to understand, is it being developed before I start pushing anything or pushing any, marketing around a brand or a product. I need to understand if it's real and if the model works, right? So when I went to Sumba and saw the properties that were being developed, I was very impressed. It was very high end. All of the infrastructure was dialed in for being an island. Everything checks out, like the numbers and they're 100% booked July and August. So I was like, okay, this is a really interesting opportunity. This was about a month ago or so, roughly.
Yeah.
And we've been full sprint ever since, right? So full sprint, we partnered up about a month ago. He's been doing this for a long time. And for me, I had to understand how it all works. I had to understand, if the properties were cash flowing, if they were real, all of those things being built, and, everything checked out. So I dove in and now we're partnered up. So grateful for the opportunity, man. Yeah.
Grateful too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can also tell that the synergy between us is also like so fetting because I always was really good on the marketing side and on the sales side. We're running ads and we're generating there the leads. I also have a good hand, just as you, for the co-development because we know exactly what our investors and what the people look for in a property. And we also focus basically on creating a product which is so feasible, so attractive that it's basically selling itself. So it's a no-brainer. And this is, I think, what we're being the best at currently. And this is also what allows us to basically crush now the market and have like no competition. Because also on these islands where we focus right now, the neighboring islands to Bali, basically we have no competition. We made a large-scale market analysis, and we're the only ones like doing these projects in a way that we do on the beachfront. All these types of things, we're the only one offering these numbers and also provable. And I'm also very thankful for all our cooperation right now because I always had it in my gut that we got to work together because now you bring on the table exactly these things which I have been missing out on from this point of view. And now we can focus also on the bigger scale because now I made sure that my company and all my sales processes with all my managers and sales guys and employees basically works on autopilot. I don't have to care that much anymore about all the sales because we've got amazing people to take care about that. And now we together, we can focus now on scaling the big deals, working up with the big developers and big investors for acquiring new projects, currently, for example, in Uluwatu, and just grow the company, create more value to the people who work with us, to the investors. And this has been really an amazing journey so far.
Fast-paced,
The momentum is insane.
Yeah.
And absolutely stoked.
Yeah, man. So what are you most excited about for Eating Gate in general, right? So what is your most, we have the sales division, the marketing division, we have the co-development divisions. What are you most excited about? Like which project or, what's your vision?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question because we are already doing so many exciting things. Just to mention a few that we're doing now, these beach resorts for the ones listening who don't know us yet. We're doing developments on the beach directly, luxury 5-star beach resorts on Sumbawa, Lombok, and Sumba. which are like completely going insane. The demand is insanely high. We are offering their properties and luxury villas starting from 90,000 euros, and they cash flow around 20% ROI after expenses a year, provable. And it's also directly on the beach. We've got 80-year leasehold, so it's around 4 times higher than in Bali, and the value also,
The leasehold is 4 times.
yeah,
More.
four times higher the leasehold, because the normal spectrum in Bali is around 25 years. So very interesting. But obviously, what we're working on right now is even more exciting, because now Edengate, our company, has become a developer itself. Before, we always just were co-development consultants, mainly marketing and sales, and we have the exclusive rights to all these projects which we are working on. But right now we grew so big that we just became a development company, and currently we are acquiring a project from the biggest developer in all of Bali. He flew out to us here to meet us.
In
And
Dubai.
he has been a really amazing guy to work with, by the way. Super cool, good. But this is by far the most exciting thing. So we also work on a ultra luxury beach project in Sumba, which we also will develop ourselves with the top guys in the world in this department. So this is definitely the most exciting stuff we're working on right now, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I really like the momentum, as you said, right? Kind of feels like it's falling into place, right? Like it's meant to be almost, right? Like it's like boom,
Exactly.
boom, boom, boom. It's constantly like boom, connection here, boom, deal, acquisition. It's just yeah, it's really exciting. Things are moving fast. Like we just partnered up a month ago, and it's really yeah, it's moving fast, and I'm really grateful for it. So my next question for you is, so let's compare some real estate markets, right? So what markets, you're from Europe, I'm from the US. I already told you I wasn't super excited about US real estate or, the ROIs there. So, your background in Europe, show some comparisons, maybe talk about a specific location. You're from Hungary, right? So, what's the real estate look like there in comparison to Indonesia or Bali specifically and surrounding islands?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. My family has been doing some sort of developments privately for themselves for many years now, especially in Hungary. And they're getting excited about like 5 to 7% ROI. This is like for them insane. So, and since I was also back then in crypto, 5 to 7% didn't excite me at all. So I didn't even want to look into real estate.
Yeah.
This was obviously before I discovered Bali and all these types of things and these markets. Also, when we look at, for example, Spain, where a lot of European investors invest, because right now, obviously, many people know this in Northern Europe, Germany, UK, these countries, the Netherlands, there's a lots of like, let's say, political difficulties going on. Many people feel unsafe. They want to bring their cash, their hard-earned money outside of the country because they don't trust the system anymore. And they know exactly that they will profit and can secure the money in other countries way better. And this is also why, obviously, our projects and everything else is booming. Not the only reason, but it's partly a reason, because everybody takes their money outside. The most famous destination to bring your money to currently is the country and the city which we are in right now, Dubai. There is over $1.2 billion being done in revenue a week for real estate in Dubai alone.
Wow.
Insane numbers. And this also obviously has led Dubai to inflate the prices a lot. Currently in Dubai, you're talking about $250,000 for a small studio apartment with like 25 square meters. And the ROIs are promised to be around 5 to 7% depending on project. And this is already exciting to investors. This makes them bring all their hard-earned cash here and invest millions of dollars. So if you're looking at these markets and compare them obviously to Bali and also our projects, it will become very clear that this is a very big difference. In Dubai, you get for 250,000 a studio apartment and a tower with thousands of apartments. If you want beachfront, you just have to basically dig a hole in the ground because it's a desert. It will fill up with seawater. There it is, beachfront. Unlimited basically supply for those things. And the beachfront villa here at the Palm begins at, I think, like 10 million, 7 million. On the other hand, in our beach resorts, which there's already a huge demand, millions of tourists, paradise nature, um, amazing climate. We started around 90 to 100,000 euros for a villa at the beach. And the daily rentals are basically the same as in Dubai for like a $500,000 villa or apartments. So we start, our prices starts from like 150 to 200 euros a night for these kinds of villas. So obviously, in return, when you start calculating yourself, you realize, wait a minute, the ROIs are like 4 or 5 times higher than here in Dubai. So, and this is what a lot of people right now come to realize because they make their market analysis. And this is also why these markets are so hot right now. These prices will not be contained for like such a long time. We are right now in a very large growth and also in the prices. And obviously in the next 3 to 5 years, we will have similar prices also in Dubai because the supply is much lower. There's much less land available, especially at the beach, very limited. And the demand is insane. We have got almost as much visitors to flying to Bali as flying to Dubai. But the prices aren't even closely comparison and like a comparison. So definitely there will be a huge growth, and the price per square meter will grow from like currently 1,500 to 2,000 euros to 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 at the beach very soon. So this is why we're focusing on these markets. This is why we're growing so fast, because many people realize this right now and just jump on the boat because it's a no-brainer investment. It's hands-free, 4 times bigger ROI. And people realize that in 3 to 5 years, this will change a lot and will generate, generational wealth. So, this what I can tell about the comparisons in the markets.
Love it, man. So a lot of the feedback, Dubai is a very established brand, right? It's a very established regulatory presence. It's a very, it's a financial hub, right, of the world, right? So, people trust, Dubai, investing in Dubai or, the US, for example. Some of the feedback we get, or I've received about Indonesia specifically, for the listeners or for the people listening to this, what can you give them? What certainty can you give them over the regulatory, over the ownership of the land, or because there's the leasehold, the freehold. So maybe explain the leasehold, the freehold differences, and then can like the government just say, oh, you don't own that land anymore, or can they take away this investment, or is there any risks on that side of things for investors?
Yeah, gladly. First of all, it's also important to mention that you also always have to look at the country itself where you're investing in. And looking at Indonesia, where Bali is located, Indonesia is the second fastest and most growing economy in the world. So there's insane potential. They're producing pretty much all of the resources anybody on any country in the world needs when it comes to food, energy, oil, technology, all these kinds of things. So they're very smart about what they're doing, similar to Dubai, very forward thinking, and which is very important, and also self-sufficient in regards to food supply and all these kinds of things. Well, according to the regulatory and security, it is very simple. Basically, Indonesia is very concerned also, obviously, about, not concerned, but has like interest in its well-being of its local people, and also have a high interest in foreign investors coming to their country and improving their financials, their infrastructure, and just like basically helping to grow the country, similar to Dubai. So what do? Basically, they created this leasehold agreements where they came up with this idea because they wanted to make sure that the local and the natives don't lose out on all of the land and getting pushed out of the country after like, let's say 20 years, because we've seen this in other countries. The locals obviously are not economically as strong as the foreign investors, and prices will rise. They will buy all the land, and like in 20 years, they will have nothing left and cannot afford the rent, so they gotta leave. So the government is making sure that this cannot happen. So in return, they created the leasehold agreements. also for max safety, by the way, also for the investors. So what it is basically, it's an ownership which will expire after a certain amount of time. But the rights you have are pretty much the same. And also you get the notary stamp, and the government is in this contract, so it's making sure that you have all the rights, it cannot be taken away. So right-wise, it's the same as in Europe. It just expires after a certain amount of time. The average leasehold in Bali is between 20 and 30 years. And since the returns are so high, it's still very feasible because you will get your money back in 5 to 10 years. After these 25 years, you can still extend your leasehold. For example, another 25 years. You will have to pay a certain fee, and then you will just extend your leasehold. What we are offering right now is on our beach resorts, 80-year leasehold, 80, which is a big difference.
Can you clarity what that means? Like, how can we offer the 80 years just for the listener?
Well, the reason for that is because we own as a company everything freehold. Freehold means we have the absolute ownership, so we don't lease it from the original owner, but we buy the land as a whole. We can do that because we have the company for that. And the maximum amount of years you can then, in regards leasehold to other investors, is 80 years. And this is why we're able to do that. And this also means that the value for the investors coming to us is much greater, because obviously after 25 years, you don't have to be concerned about, oh, what happens now with my investment, with my villa? You have 55 years left. Right. So this is well enough time. And even after these 80 years, you can still extend it with us.
Yeah, so that is a new rule implemented by Indonesia, right? Before you had to have a local partner and all these different things. I think similar in Dubai, you also had to have that before, but I believe they've changed. Well, they have changed that now because we're able to acquire freehold lands and then leasehold it to investors, right? So, and it's important to note that after 80 years, it's likely that we can do another 80 years. We just haven't experienced that yet because freehold became available in 1967, I believe. So the first opportunity to extend a freehold land would be, 2047, right? Something like that. So, yeah. So we'll know in like 20-ish years what it looks like, right? So that's very interesting. So it's important to note, the investors are protected. They have a leasehold agreement with the government.
Exactly.
With a notary. So when they make an investment for these leasehold lands, specifically with these beachfront properties, they have 80-year leasehold, meaning multiple generations can go and stay and live in these villas if they want to, or, cash flow them for investment purposes. For specific islands like Sumba or Sumbawa, you probably don't want to live there because there's not much infrastructure, but it's really cool to go visit for a week or two, disconnect, be out in nature, ride horses, go scuba diving, spear fishing.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's very powerful. And then you get to live on the beach. Nothing better.
There's, I think, nobody really in the world who's not, loving the beach and paradise nature. Yeah. It's very a place everybody wants to be in.
Yeah. So let's take it to the next level, right? So what kind of investment? Let's give a structured investment. Let's say an investor comes to you, says, I'm interested in purchasing a villa or multiple villas. I think most investors purchase multiple villas because of the purchase price. Is that correct? Because it's such a low purchase price. You get beachfront villas for 100K euros. So let's talk about like a typical investment for an investor. So they'll come to you and they'll buy how many villas, or is it like a 2-bedroom villa let's do a 2-bedroom villa example. So a 2-bedroom villa in Sumba. Yeah. Someone comes to you to purchase that. What's the purchase price?
The purchase price is 179,000 euros. Okay. It's around 170 square meter land and 120 square meter living area. All natural materials, very high quality, natural stone. There's nothing, it's not a paper house or something. So
no polyester.
No polyester. It's the highest quality materials you can use.
So you're really integrated with nature.
Exactly.
It's all,
you have from lots of greenery and plants around you for the privacy. You have a private pool, amazing views. And to talk about the cash flowing, this villa currently is generating around 4,300 euros a month.
Profit or?
Profit after expenses. We already deducted around 45% expenses. Mm-hmm. By the way, an important notice here would be that many developers are not really transparent about the actual costs of the renting, because you will see many advertisements telling you, oh, this is the ROI, let's say 17% in Bali. But the reality is that you have to deduct the management fee, the tax, the operational costs, and the Airbnb costs. And if you calculate everything together, you can be really fast around like 40, 50, or even 60% cost, depending on the product. So in the end, you're not left with like 18% ROI, but you're left with 9 or maybe 10 or maybe 7. So this is very something you should be looking out for and also know about this. This is also why we only communicate the ROIs and the cash flows when we already deducted all these costs. So this notice about that. And so basically 4,300 euros a month in rental income, which is already cash flowing right now in this moment. So it's nothing we hope that it will come to reality or we are hoping for to exist at some point, but this is the status right now.
Very cool. So you're talking about 180K or 179K investment for a 2-bedroom with the estimated occupancy of what? And I know that July and August you said is fully occupied, right? Because we're launching the product now. But what does it look like occupancy across Sumba, for example, like throughout the year?
I mean, the average occupancy on these islands is already around 80 to 85%. Doesn't even matter really what projects you're in. The biggest question is what can you charge a night, because the quality of each project differs. Since we have a project on the quality side of the higher spectrum, 5-star, concierge, all these kinds of things, beachfront, which are not many projects are, by the way, beachfront, because it's way more expensive for the developer to construct and build. We calculate the ROIs with 70% occupancy and also 85% occupancy, and even the worst case scenario of 50% occupancy. With 50% occupancy, you're around 15% ROI. With 70, around 20 plus. And with 85% occupancy, you're around like 25 plus ROI. And the current occupancies in July and August is close to 100%. Spread over the year, including the low seasons, we are expecting an occupancy of around 80 to 85%, realistically.
Incredible. All right. Well, yeah, so we've highlighted a lot of opportunities. We highlighted a couple of our beachfront developments. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone looking right now at his money, at his hard-earned cash, and thinking about what he can do to secure this money and also to diversify and have a high cash flowing hard asset with the lowest risk possible, he should really look into these markets, or she, and also gladly contact us and get some information from us, educate themselves, and make sure that for the next generations the wealth is secured and cash flow is running.
Amazing. All right, brother. Well, let's go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, bro.
Some places are built to impress, but Eden Gate was crafted to inspire, to ground you, and to elevate your life. Here, European artistry meets the untamed beauty of Bali, creating a sanctuary where nature, architecture, and soul exist in a perfect harmony. This is more than owning a home. It's an invitation to live intentionally, to find peace, to grow your legacy, and to awaken a deeper sense of belonging.
This is not only an investment.
Right.
Of course, we have here very high returns. We're talking above 30% ROI, realistically after expenses. But the thing is that basically an investor who also secures here a beachfront villa, he will have people like Ronaldo in this league making vacation in his villa. So this is also something you need to wrap your head around this, because this is already a place which has been established for these kinds of people.
I don't think we can say much more, but there's a chance to have a beachfront villa in one of the most luxury places on earth. It's going to be very limited, and we look forward to sharing that soon.
Welcome to Eden Gate, your gateway to paradise.